Welcome to this week's travel and history tip. Believe it or not, I'm back on Route 66, and this is part 4. We will be driving along the western half of Arizona on Route 66. Next week, hopefully we will finish up on the California leg. But as for today, we will start where we left off at Two Guns, and we will travel past Flagstaff, which Flagstaff is in the song. However, Flagstaff is a busy college town. A lot of the nostalgia of Route 66 just isn't the same anymore. So we traveled on westward to Williams. The little town of Williams calls himself the gateway to the Grand Canyon, the best of Route 66. And in some ways it is. The whole town is sort of built around Route 66, from nostalgic gas stations and museums to the hotels. The main strip, which is a two-way boulevard, is all about Route 66. And I thought this was quite funny as we stopped and got gas at a modern gas station. And then here is a gas station, which I believe we called them filling stations back then. My, have the stations changed, and so have the vehicles. We found this vehicle at the car wash. I'm pretty sure that Elvis was driving and Priscilla was in the passenger seat. Williams was actually the last Route 66 town to be bypassed by the I-40 freeway. Williams held out until the bitter end, waging court battle after court battle before finally surrendering on October 13, 1984. Despite the town's long opposition, in the end, Williams gave in gracefully, going so far as to hold a celebration come wake for the old road, highlighted by a performance atop the new freeway overpass by none other than Mr. Route 66, Bobby Get Your Kicks Troop. Continuing west on I-40, which has resurfaced much of Route 66, is the town of Ashfork. We found this quaint motel, and then we also found this one that is in total disrepair that certainly was in its heyday during the time of Route 66. And here is a store that shows that they have been in business along Route 66 since 1929. Next stop, Kingman. Kingman has all sorts of sights, but again, it has become more of a busy city, and an awesome city at that, known as a great place to stay because there's so many sites in close proximity to Kingman. The stretch of Route 66 through Kingman has been renamed in memory of favorite son Andy Devine, who was born in Flagstaff in 1905, but grew up in Kingman, where his parents ran the Beale Hotel. One of the best-known character actors of Hollywood's classic era, Devine's most famous role was as the wagon driver in the classic 1939 John Ford Western Stagecoach. He died in 1977. We were headed on Route 66 to the Wallapai Reservation to the town of Peach Springs, but because of COVID, the Wallapai Reservation was closed down, and out of just respect for that, we just stopped at Antares Point and found this quaint gas station with this big green head, and we went ahead and turned northwest on the highway there at Antares and headed out into the desert for a beautiful drive. One of the highlights of Route 66 has got to be Oatman over in Mojave County, and I love this sign as this beautiful goat is in this picture, and if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. At the beginning of this awesome byway is this sign, and one of the paragraphs reads, Gateway to the Southwest. The 1950s brought a surge in the new American phenomenon, the family vacation. Route 66 enticed travelers to and through the heartland of the scenic Southwest. Although improvements in the family station wagon made mountain driving easier, drivers also wanted faster roadways through flatter landscapes. In 1953, Route 66 was officially rerouted through Yucca and away from the Black Mountains, one less obstacle to cross-country travel. As we traveled down this backcountry road along the switchbacks and 15-mile-per-hour hairpin turns and dipped into Oatman, it is really sad that places like this are now just basically tourist traps. You have to really make a point to go see them, and I hope that one day you will make a point and take a family vacation and catch different stretches of Route 66, and Oatman definitely needs to be one of those destination places. Oatman was sparsely settled starting in 1863 when a small bit of gold was discovered in the surrounding Black Mountains. Not much came of the discovery until two lucky prospectors struck it rich in 1915 with a $10 million claim. The town grew rapidly after that, and in the course of a single year, the tiny tent village became a town of 3,500 people. In the 1920s and 30s, the population grew to around 10,000. There are a lot of interesting signs, and this is one of them. This place is politically incorrect. We say Merry Christmas, one nation under God. We salute our flag and give thanks to our troops. If this offends you, leave. And this sign is placed in various sections of the town, but it reads, Oatman was founded about 1906. By 1931, the area's mines had produced over 1.8 million ounces of gold by the mid-1930s. The boom was over, and in 1942, the last remaining mines were closed as non-essential to the war effort. Burros first came to Oatman with early-day prospectors. The animals were also used inside mines for hauling rock and ore. Outside the mines, burros were used for hauling water and supplies. As the mines closed and people moved away, the burros were released into the surrounding hills. The burros you meet today in Oatman, while descendants of domestic work animals, are themselves wild, help protect these living symbols of the Old West. Driving down the main drag, Route 66, you will see burros sniffing in cars, walking into the shop. It's actually quite entertaining. And we found this one store that said wild burro food sold here. And so I guess that's why this burro was just walking on in that store, because he wanted some food. And here are a few great shots of the many buildings that make up Oatman. It's very rustic, and unfortunately, because of COVID, a lot of the businesses weren't opened. There were a few that were indeed opened, and there were quite a few tourists there. This one sign that we found said Oatman, Arizona Territory, the ghost town that refuses to die. And speaking of die, here is an old-fashioned coffin. Haven't seen one of these in a while. There are Oatman Outlaw shows at noon and 2:15 each day. For some reason, the day we were there, the noon show was canceled. Unfortunately, we did not get to see the shootout. This sign reads, the gold mining town of Oatman was named for a migrating pioneer family attacked and killed by Indians near Gila Bend, Arizona in 1851. Some 50 mines operated in the Oatman area. From its beginning in 1904 and through 1931, the Oatman district produced $36 million in ore. Population of Oatman at its peak was estimated to be more than 10,000. Oatman certainly prospered during a decade-long gold rush, but when the mines dried up, so did everything else. The town's biggest mine closed in 1924, and by 1941, the government ordered the closing of Oatman's remaining mining operations as part of the country's war efforts. Here are some of the fun shops in Oatman, and one of the Route 66 roadside attraction, State of Arizona signs, Gold Mining Ghost Town, Oatman, Arizona. This turn-of-the-century gold mining camp was on the original road through the Black Mountains and eventually became Route 66. Burros came with the miners and still roam the streets today. The gold mines here produced some 2 million ounces from their start in 1904 until they panned out, in the mid-1930s at its peak. And here's the Bucktooth Burro, and here's Steve petting one of the burro residents. And they just come right up to your car window and say howdy. We did walk through this small mine, and Steve tried to see if this car would start, but I just don't think it was ever going to start for him, no matter how hard he tried. The inside of the Oatman Hotel is still covered floor to ceiling with dollar bills, and it was actually closed the day we were there. Unfortunately, like a good deal of the businesses there, but we could take a picture and see through the top window of the bills. The Oatman Hotel was originally named for its builder John Durlin as the Durlin Hotel. It's an old historic two-story adobe building. It was originally built in 1902 and then rebuilt in 1924 after a fire. It's only an 8-room hotel, and it did a booming business with miners, and that's when the practice began of covering the hotel walls and ceiling with signed and dated $1 bills. Clark Gable and Carol Lombard spent their first night after getting married in Kingman in 1939. I have to say I was terribly disappointed that we weren't able to get in to actually see this. In 1921, a fire swept through the town, destroying most of Oatman's buildings, including the Oatman Hotel. Today, Oatman looks like a Wild West stage set, but it's the real thing. Awnings over the plank sidewalks and a few burros wandering the streets. I found a lot of different stories about the town of Oatman, or actually it was originally supposedly called Vivian. Whether any of these accounts are completely true, I don't know. It's still a fun place to visit, and while you're out on Route 66, certainly take the diversion over to Oatman. It's sad, but the gold mining town of Oatman's glory days faded a long time ago when I-40 bypassed it back in 1952. And as I've shown, it takes full advantage of its Route 66 heritage. After leaving Oatman, we did exit south towards I-40 and stopped and had a picnic in this beautiful desert scene. American history. Learn it, love it, appreciate it. Thank you.